Hello, welcome back to the workshop. What you're looking at is the left-hand side of the engine in my 2018 Royal Enfield Himalayan. You'll notice I have an oil leak. I've actually always had an oil leak on this side of the engine ever since the bike was new. So initially it was leaking at the gasket between the cylinder head and the cylinder. I resolved that by installing longer bolts that gave me better clamping force. Unfortunately, I now have a leak down in this area, and I've traced that leak to the threads of the bolts. So for some reason, I don't know if there's high pressure oil in this area or if it's heat related or something like that, but oil is running down the threads of the bolt and it's dripping out through the holes and running down the cylinder head. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to fix this so it won't leak again. If that interests you, stay tuned. We'll get started. So the hole for this bolt is through drilled and tapped on the lower section. That means the hole goes all the way through and is open between these two fins. The way to fix this oil leak is to seal the bottom of that hole similarly to the way the top is sealed. The way I did that is I used a longer bolt, I added a nut and another sealing washer on the bottom end. I've already done this side to give you an idea of what we're going to do. Because there's not a lot of room here, it requires some pretty specific hardware. So I want to take you over to the workbench, walk you through what I used, what you'll need, and then we'll come back, I'll pull this one out and I'll show you how to put the new one in. The hardware you'll need for this is straightforward. You shouldn't have any trouble finding it, but you have to make sure it matches these specs. The bolt needs to be a socket cap screw and it needs to be 45 millimeters long. No longer, no shorter. You also need a pair of 6 millimeter sealing washers. The ones I have here are aluminum. Copper or fiber will also work. And then you need a 6 millimeter jam nut. It has to be a jam nut. If it's a regular nut, it'll be too tall. I did not have a 45 millimeter bolt, so I cut one down from a longer bolt. I just turned it on the lathe to make it shorter. So now it's a case of removing the old bolt and putting the new one in. When you put this in, make sure to use a little thread locker on it just to keep it from backing out with vibration. One of the reasons the length of this is so important is if it's longer than 45 millimeters, you won't be able to get it in the hole. It'll hit the cam cover here. So to actually get this in here, I cut an Allen key down. There just wasn't enough room. Now that I've got this bolt in almost all the way, I want to make sure that the nut and the washer are centered on it. If I keep trying to tighten this down and they're not, I'll actually strip these threads out. I'm going to keep tightening this down until that nut engages the threads there, and then I'm going to get it started on the threads, then finish running this down and then tighten it up. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to take some compressed air, blow the oil out of here, clean it up so I'll know if it leaks. And then I've got a trip planned this weekend, so I'm going to take it on that and we'll see if it's still leaking when I get back. So I rode the bike out this weekend. I went out to Craig and back. I didn't have any trouble with oil leakage. That ride went over Cameron Pass and up over Rabbit Ears Pass. I spent a lot of time in the 5,000 to 6,000 RPM range, and going down into Walden we had a headwind and I was wide open throttle for a good portion of that. So the engine was sufficiently stressed over the weekend. It had a lot of heat in it and I didn't get any additional oil leakage. I added some marking paint before I left because I wanted to be able to see if the position of those bolts or nuts had changed, and they didn't move. But also I'm not getting any oil on that marking paint, so I'm going to call that a success. I don't know what it is about the bolts in that location. The threads act as a leak path, but adding a nut and a sealing washer seems to have fixed the leak. If you've got one of these Himalayans and you're chasing down a similar leak, give this a try. It might work for you. If you're subscribed to my channel, I want to say thank you. I really do appreciate it. If you're not and you enjoyed this or you enjoy this type of content, well, consider subscribing. So with that, thanks for watching.